event is brought to you by World Pro Racing, the Malta Motorsport Federation, GMR Entertainment, WJ England & Son, Melita, Media Looks, Restream.io, Gaming Malta, VisitMalta.com, and TVM Sport.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
Soul is something you know when you feel it. You can't miss it here. Here. Or here. And some would say it's here. This is soul. Ah, okay, not this. Completely, utterly, soulless. Now, here's some soul. This is the sound of soul. And now, thanks to generous donations of soul from here, and here, we're pleased to say, it's here. Especially here. And here. Introducing the first electric car with a genuine sports car soul. The Porsche Taycan. Soul. Electrified.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real. It's a challenge. It always has been here when it's come to events that we've seen so far on the sphere, but what a challenge it proves to be today. We head to a track which many a person has said has one of the most iconic corners in all of racing. We head to a track which has gone through a variety of different sponsorship names, but the challenge remains the same. It's Laguna Seca, the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, and it's here live and uninterrupted here on Motorsport TV, on ESTV, and on TVM Sport as well, because we are coming to you with World Pro Racing and some amazing racing action that's going to be coming to you courtesy of the Porsche Cayman GT4 category vehicles here today. My name's Shakespeare. It's a little cold. I'm a little lonely here today. My good old buddy Nicholas Hillebrand is not here alongside me. If you have been tuning in to some of the other challenges that have been going on in terms of the sphere, and if you haven't been able to catch any of the racing action so far, you always have that opportunity to go to YouTube, to Twitch, over to Facebook Live and see all of the amazing action that can go on. And that's your cue. If you haven't already, like, share and subscribe to World Pro Racing. And if you haven't already, head over to the website worldproracing.com if you want to be a part of sim racing events in the future. Some amazing things are in the pipeline, and something that I know in the next couple of days is definitely going to be announced. Is going to be absolutely wonderful to have a watch and listen to. My name's Shakespeare, as I've said earlier on, and this is the Continental Cars Limited race here, the Porsche Cayman GT4 Challenge, and it's going to be one you definitely do not want to miss here in terms of this one. In terms of what's coming up, the Endurance Series, the HyperX Endurance Series, that's definitely going to be something worth keeping in mind here today, as everybody will be wanting to try and get in, and I know quite a few names will be wanting to knock on the door and get themselves up into that. But we find ourselves about 5 minutes away here from moving over towards practice action over the course of the series, and you can get social with us as well with World Pro Racing. You can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Twitter, you can always have a nice friendly conversation if you want to try and watch more amazing action that will be going on all around the sim racing sphere. But the focus lands very solely on Malta here for this one. This event, as has been for all the casual events that we've seen on Gran Turismo Sport, the platform that we are racing on here today, as we have done for a very long time, the big key has been how the Maltese sim racing community has started to square up and look absolutely magnificent. There is a triad of fantastic drivers who are looking like they are going to be the ones best poised for when it comes to 2021, the national championship that will be coming up, which will lead to the FIA Motorsport Games, and of course representing your country, which of course always comes with great pride. But today might just be a little closer than a lot of people have really given themselves credit for. A GT4 category vehicle is not necessarily the fastest in the world. It's the fourth category of GT vehicles from GT1 and GT2, which merged into GTE for GT Endurance, and is probably the most popular run vehicle class in the world, the likes of the World Endurance Championship and IMSA and so much more. GT3 has had so many brilliant series come along, both national, continental, and internationally as well. And on top of that, GT4 is a really, really exciting class category of vehicles, especially here with Porsche and Continental Cars Limited. Today is prize-filled for drivers who have themselves a choice. If they finish inside the top 3 of proceedings here today, they have the opportunity to win either a Porsche hat, a Porsche mug, or a Porsche cuddly toy. And that, of course, makes this feel very much like a 90s game show in some respects. But I wonder where Dale Winton would be at a time like this. But the big focus that we've got going on is that we've got some brilliant action that will be on the horizon. We're about 3 minutes away, ladies and gentlemen, from the start of racing proceedings. But Laguna Seca, let's talk about that as a track just for the moment. It's a place which, for so many people, they go along and they absolutely love it. It is one of the few tracks that you can say all the basics need to be put in place to make sure that you get the whole circuit working absolutely perfectly. It's surprising how much time you can lose at the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, mainly because every single time you're going out there, you're racing, you're having a wonderful, wonderful battle. Every corner becomes a challenge over a 12-corner lap. Turns 2 and 3, the Andretti hairpin, which has been one of the prime overtaking opportunities around a track like this. It's so difficult to get right. You're downhill on the brakes and trying to make sure that you can slow up the car as much as possible. From there, if you're still too wide, you've got then 2 next right-handers. Turn 4, turn 5. Always can be tough places to continue the battle, and everywhere on the outside of this circuit is effectively burnt off grass and gravel, which makes life even tougher if you start to get things wrong. From going off wide maybe at 4 and 5, you then start to make that rise up the hill from 6 over towards 7, and then you start thinking about, okay, what's next? You've got that dreaded corkscrew, which has messed with so many drivers time and time again. You go down 11 stories worth of buildings to go from the top of the corkscrew to the bottom, and like anybody who falls 11 stories, 9 times out of 10, it doesn't end well if things go wrong. So you really want to make sure that the corkscrew is that iconic corner, which effectively on a track which looks like a head, looks like the nose, so to speak, as you go down towards the chin and towards the final sections of the track. It's very much a case of you have to get that one absolutely fantastically. We are having a couple of issues though, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of getting over towards practice right now, so we will be trying to get you over towards some of that racing action as soon as we possibly can. We do apologize for any inconvenience and delays that we have over the course of proceedings here today, but this Laguna Seca track is going to be a huge challenge for a lot of these drivers, and they'll be looking to try and put those building blocks in place, looking to try and go through a massive series of different vehicles, which can so often really make a huge difference in terms of who's going to be finding what pace where, who suits what vehicle, and how you try and approach things moving forward. Some drivers aren't necessarily the quickest in the Grand Tourer category of vehicles, but especially here on what is more of a open forum style of vehicle to go in, we see a couple of drivers can on occasion find themselves unstuck in a vehicle that doesn't allow them to maybe flex as much the expertise needed of car control, because you have a vehicle that's always very planted, very rooted to the ground, can always find a big opportunity out there to pretty much level the playing field, I think is the right words to describe it, and can really be something that I think a lot of people can definitely like and appreciate and move forward with, in terms of we are expecting some close racing here today. And if someone does start to break away from the pack, then my goodness, will it be very much a deserved result coming out of this one, because this is one of those sorts of vehicles that really implies pack mentality racing, and very much it will be a case of who can just extend their legs a little bit and find themselves in the battles. When it comes to racing action and trying to get ourselves ready for that, there's going to be a lot of things to keep in mind over the course of the racing that we have today. The big thing is going to be the tyres and the rate of accelerated wear that these tyres are going to be having. 7 times the rate of acceleration is always going to be a tough challenge that these drivers will be having here today, and they will be definitely looking to try and get to as much as they can here as they go on forward. In terms of the issues that we have, the issue is not on our end, ladies and gentlemen, but more rather our issue with the Gran Turismo Sport clientele itself. We'll be trying to get that all sorted for you as soon as we possibly can. But what is so very, very crucial in terms of how you deal with pack mentality racing and staying within a range looking to attack, this might just be a case of drivers being patient, drivers waiting, drivers looking at, okay, not can I make the move? That might be a little bit easier for a number of drivers trying to go out there, make overtakes and make things happening, as we look towards what will be hopefully coming up for you in just a little bit. It will be about how they look to mastermind a way to go through, a way to make the overtake at the right time. And that's the crucial number. At the right time. I said it was a number, but in terms of time, it will be very late in the races where we may just see all the big results coming up into one in terms of how we see this event fall into fruition. We see so many times that a driver can make an overtake, but sometimes being at the front, it's not the easiest place in the world to be. There are a few advantages to being at the front around a track like this. There isn't so much as a very long straight, except on the run through turn 1 over towards the Mario Andretti hairpin. And that could be a big place where you see the advantage made. But there is that rise coming off of the very difficult turn number 6 out on circuit, which goes up the hill, left-hander, one-line suits all, anti-cut curbing on the inside of the corner that can always make life incredibly, incredibly difficult to get right. And if you do sort of scupper and scuttle that run up the hill, you could be very easily a sitting duck on the braking zone, an uphill braking zone into the corkscrew. And part of what also makes the corkscrew so difficult to get right is the fact that you go from transfer in terms of that section of road. You go from what is effectively an uphill part of the circuit, which then levels out to pretty much a plateau, a flat part of the track, as you look to try and make sure that you get yourself as close as you possibly can on the brakes to go through. And then you need confidence to flick it through the left-hand corner, which can always be such a very, very tough part. And then it's that transfer back to the right, which always seems to catch out drivers. When you see drivers having a spin, either they've spun it in the first part of the corner, going down the hill over towards the left-hand side of the circuit, or it's the other part. They've got the right, but the back has stepped out, and then you find yourself twirling over towards the inside barriers just before the sheen curve. And that can so easily make things so difficult in terms of some of the racing action that is available here today. And of course, if you are watching on motorsport.tv, there is so much that you can find in terms of more racing action that will be going on, hopefully, in the next few days. I know there's a whole myriad of events that are coming up in the sporting world, so please make sure that you have an opportunity to check out motorsport.tv. If you're watching on TVM Sport, I know there's so much action that goes on, of course, over there. So make sure that you have some fun, sit down with the family and watch some incredible racing here today, hopefully. And then we can move on and see some more great action time and time again. And of course, for those watching on ESTV, Esports Television, we'd like to welcome over towards some more brilliant action very, very soon. But please stay with us here with World Pro Racing's coverage here of what is going to be your Continental Cars Limited GT4 Porsche Cayman Challenge. We'll be back, hopefully, with a little bit more after this. This event is brought to you by World Pro Racing, the Malta Motorsport Federation, GMR Entertainment, WJ England & Son, Melita, Media Looks, Restream.io, Gaming Malta, VisitMalta.com, and TVM Sport.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
Soul is something you know when you feel it. You can't miss it here. Here. Or here. And some would say it's here. This is soul. Ah, okay, not this. Completely. Utterly. Soulless. Now, here's some soul. This is the sound of soul. And now, thanks to generous donations of soul from here, and here, we're pleased to say, it's here. Especially here. And here. Introducing the first electric car with a genuine sports car soul. The Porsche Taycan. Soul. Electrified.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to some more amazing action here with World Pro Racing, your Continental Cars Limited Porsche Cayman Challenge here for the GT4 category class vehicle here today on Gran Turismo Sport, brought to you, of course, by World Pro Racing on YouTube, on Facebook Live, and on Twitch. If you haven't already, like, share, and subscribe to World Pro Racing for more amazing action and more events that will be coming up in the pipeline, not just with Gran Turismo, but with a whole host of different platforms that are coming into the mix, the likes of R Factor 2, Assetto Corsa Competizione. I'm pretty sure there may be a lot of events coming up, hopefully in the near future. So we all know that there's going to be some great opportunities. If you want to become a sim racer and you want to learn and get in on some action, World Pro Racing might just be one of the better places in the sim racing sphere to help hone and develop your craft in order to become a better racing driver. But we are in a little bit of a limbo situation. It's not a secret that we are suffering from a few technical issues here, which are preventing us from getting over towards the racing action that we, of course, will hopefully want to be bringing you at this point. But for those who are brand new and tuning in for the first time, going, who is this Englishman who's talking to you right now and describing things about a video game? Well, my name's Jake Sperry here, and in terms of the video game we're on Gran Turismo Sport, and it is one of the marquee, I would say, racing games that are out there in terms of the model of sim racing as a whole. There are a number of games that are out there which have very many differences in terms of how they bring together, but Gran Turismo Sport is the flagship for the PlayStation 4 at the moment. So, in terms of how they approached it, how they built Gran Turismo Sport from the ground up, this was more of a focus on the racing, being a major platform for them to focus on the esports side, focus on how much of a development has started to grow over the esports sphere over the last 4 or 5 years, which, of course, a lot of credit has to go over to Formula E and the Visa Vegas E-Race, and how that was the first real event that made people sit up and take notice and go, this is sim racing, and sim racing can be very entertaining. And from that entertainment, we've seen a whole number of people sprouting up with tournaments and events, and we've seen many a company jump in and find many an event from time and time again, and especially when it has come to this 2020 year, which has been quite a challenge, I think, for so many people around the world. Sim racing has been given itself the platform, the light to showcase itself in terms of what it is capable of doing. And if you want me to be perfectly honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, it has been an absolute treat to see some of the professionals jump in and really enjoy what sim racing has to offer, and how they've been given this opportunity to entertain on a virtual stage. And I know for a fact that there are a number of events that will be coming back, say, in the winters of a lot of events, going, we like this sim racing thing. We're going to continue on with it in the weekend, in the off-season that we have, to make sure that you can have racing content no matter where you are all the time, whilst they look to conglomerate over towards a new season and maybe find more better racing action. But Gran Turismo Sport, soon to be looking over towards the next generation of consoles, the PlayStation 5, the Xbox as well, jumping over towards its next platform as well. But for Gran Turismo 7, some would say it's a little trip back down memory lane to one of the most famous and successful titles in all of gaming history, and that is Gran Turismo 4, which really did set new boundaries in terms of what racing games could do over the course of what we have coming up. But we're here today at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. We're hoping to get to some racing action. We are under a little bit of a delay right now due to some technical issues that we have found at this stage. We're trying to address them and fix them as quickly as we possibly can, ladies and gentlemen. We've talked a little bit about how we've been looking over towards some of the legacy of this Laguna Seca circuit, that corkscrew, which has been such a vital corner for a whole number of reasons. But that Porsche Cayman is certainly not going to be taken for granted, I feel. Yes, it's a slower style of vehicle, but it can just as easily bite as any other Porsche has been able to do. You do need an element of car control to really pilot and mastermind a sort of vehicle like this, and hopefully find many ways to find improvement suggestions to really put itself in there and get yourself working on, say, a Porsche like that. When you find yourself racing in a Porsche, it's always a case of you understand what it's all about. You feel yourself go through the corners. There's a whole lot of events that Porsche puts on in terms of the sim racing sphere, not as well as that, just the racing sphere to go on top of that. And Porsches are really all about masterminding car control. And it will be the person who has the best car control that you'd feel is probably going to be best poised today in order to try and find some of the racing action and the victory potentially here today when we have some racing going on. But Another point about Gran Turismo Sport and why it has been such an amazing platform that we have seen in the sim racing sphere has been down to its Nations Cup and its Manufacturers Series as well, both of which have garnered viewership numbers which arguably you could say eclipse quite a lot of real world racing action that you find out there. And there's a lot of drivers that actually can go out and become superstars through that sort of series and qualifying through